Whether you're new to RVing or you've been on the road for years, using a public dump station comes with a shared responsibility. Practicing good etiquette isn't just polite, it's practically required. Here are the top 10 RV dump etiquette tips that every RVer should know, including you. Let's go. I'm just going to start out by saying the very first time I ever had to dump my very first RV, it was absolutely the worst dump experience I have had to date in my 20 plus years of RVing. It was that bad. However, I'm not going to tell that story to the end because it is gross and I don't want everyone to click away. Let's get on to the list now. Tip number 1, follow posted rules and wait your turn. Always read the instructions at the station and be respectful to others waiting. Patience goes a long way here. Yeah, often when you're using a public dump is going to be the time of day that everyone else with an RV is going to be using a public dump. When everybody's leaving, the campsite's really common. Again, on Sunday afternoons, you're going to find a big backup. That's just the way it is. So be patient. One of the things I've done in the past is at the end of the RV trip when I'm dumping, if I'm in a long line, I grab myself a wet rag, and each time I move the trailer forward, I come outside and I just sort of wipe down some of the dirtiest spots on the RV. I got nothing better to do. It's a good time to just wipe off some of the gook, get rid of some black streaks. What else are you going to do while sitting there? Tip number 2, be prepared before you pull in. Have your gloves, hose, and supplies ready to go. This keeps things efficient and avoids delays. Absolutely. I keep all of my spare parts in one sealed box. That's sort of the dirty box for all the sewer stuff. I grab that and make sure that's always available and ready to pull out. I've got some gloves usually in my pockets. You want to be ready to go here. When you get your chance to pull up, you want to get in and get out and be as polite as you can. And the time that you spend at the dump will somewhat be determined by how long the line is behind you. Tip number 3, use a proper sewer hose and make tight connections. A secure connection means no spills and no unpleasant surprises for you or anyone else. You want to make sure you got a rock or something holding in that sewer tube, or maybe you got one of those handy dandy new Camco levers that everybody's talking about on the internet. Either way, make sure you've sealed that tube. Connect your tube to the sewer first and then come up, connect it to your trailer second. You want to do that so when you pull off your cap later, you're sitting there holding something that can catch anything that might fall out. We've seen that happen once or twice, right? So make sure your tube's connected to the sewer before you go and pull the first cap off your trailer. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like this video. Click the like button, that really helps us out. We're trying to grow the channel and I need your help. I make all these videos so you watch them. The only thing I ask back is that you click that subscribe button. Thanks, everyone. Tip number 4, probably most RVers know this one. If you don't, make sure you do. Dump your black tank before you dump your gray. This helps wash out all that sewer gook and toilet mess with all your dishwater and shower water, which is inherently much cleaner. Now, having said that, I will give you one extra little side tip there. When you do first connect up your trailer, pull your gray just a little tiny bit. If you pull your gray just a little bit, just, a gallon or so, you can test the whole tube, make sure everything's tight and fit. Remember that last one I just talked about? Make sure you don't have any cracks in the tube, any drips. Better to do that with shower water than it is to do it with that messy sewer water. Tip number 5, clean up after yourself. Come on, people. Always rinse the area if anything splashes around or spills. You don't want to leave any of your toilet mess for anyone else to have to come in contact with. So rinse it down. Make sure it is as clean as it was when you arrived, or, as clean as you can make it relative to what the last person left you. I've seen some awful situations, but most of the time, to be honest, most of the sewers I've been to have been nice and sprayed down. You know how it is. 90+% of the RVers out there do it right. It's just those few that screw it up. The next one is use the non-potable water correctly, and conversely use the potable water correctly. That's really the more important part of that equation. Assuming you have rinse or black tank flush water available to you with that sewer connection, that is not for drinking. Do not put that in your water tank for your trailer. Don't use that for drinking water. Make sure you keep some separation between the potable water and your non-potable water. So whatever hose is around that sewer, do not use that outlet or any of that for your drinking water. Often there is a marked potable water near where the dump is. Go use that. Pull your trailer forward and go fill up when you're done, but do not use that non-potable water for drinking water at all. It's just not a safe practice. And more importantly, absolutely do not use that potable water to do anything with your sewer tank. If I see anyone out there who is rinsing out their sewer tube, which is generally not necessary, and you're just splashing poop water all over yourself, don't rinse out your hose. Just use your gray tank for that. But more importantly, if you're using potable water to clean your hose, I will come out and talk to you and say something, unless you're like a really big, scary guy. I'm going to come out and say, hey, bud, don't do that. Or, hey, lady, that's bad practice. That screws it up for everybody. And it's what I fear when I'm going out to get water near a sewer tube. Are people using this the wrong way? Again, most of the time, most of the people don't. And as far as that idea of like putting bleach or some kind of disinfectant on the water spigot before you put your clean water back in your trailer, that works, but I understand you have to let it sit there and air dry for an extended period of time for the antibacterial bleach stuff to work. So you can't just pour bleach on there and then connect. It's not going to work like that. But I go on. Let's get on to tip number 7, and that is don't hog the station. Now, I mentioned this earlier. You want to work efficiently. If the others people are waiting, maybe skip a long flush of your black tank, and you can always do that later. It's good to flush your black tank every time, but you don't have to do a long, prolonged, perfect flush on your black tank if you're in the middle of a trip. Do that when you get to your RV site, in another day or two. This is all depending on how long the line is. If there's nobody in line behind you, heck, flush away, buddy. Go ahead and sit there for a half hour, keep cleaning out your black tank. I've done that frequently at public dumps, but only when there's no line or there's multiple stations for people to use. Other than that, pitter patter, get at her, and get out of there. Tip 8 is dispose of the gloves and any trash or clean anything involved with your sewer that you're not taking with you. Dispose of it properly. Don't leave anything on the ground. Of course, I already said, rinse the ground of any mess you made. And I should just mention, use gloves, right? Not everybody use gloves. I think I'll talk about that at the end. There are times I haven't used gloves, but I'll explain why I didn't use gloves and repeatedly for doing my sewer clean out. So save that to the end. Check out some of the newest merchandise we got, including some funny t-shirts we've just added, including this one, and this one, and this one. I don't really know which ones we're going to show here. That's why I'm just saying that. Tip number 9 is stay focused and avoid distractions. You don't want to wander off, start chatting mid-dump, look at your phone too much. You want to stay alert to avoid any accidents. And you don't want to dilly-dally. You want to get out of there. Here's an example. If my wife goes in to grab me some rubber gloves and she says, hey, some of the cabinets opened up and there's dishes on the floor, I would say, let's just hold off on that for now. Let's finish the dump. We'll pull forward and we'll deal with that. Of course, if you see an urgent emergency problem, deal with your emergency. But for the most part, I will not allow us to really get distracted when I'm doing the dump, if there's a line especially. But in general, it's a really easy place to forget things. It's the number one place that I forget and lose an RV accessory, right, is at the dump. I've left like blue filters behind and all kinds of stuff where I just, you're in a hustle there, you got a line, you feel that pressure. Just stay focused, much like when you're hitching up, stay focused only on this task. This is one of those two things, like a pilot when they take off and they land, right? No idle conversation, no distractions. This is the critical part. You just focus. And that's the way I treat hitching up and dumping. Those two things I do exclusively. I try not to interrupt the task with anything, and I just do those tasks. Get them done right. And finally, number 10, be friendly and courteous. A wave or a smile goes a long way. We're all sharing this place. And here I'll go into some of my bonus tips, because this is a good segue into the way I'll deal with the person in front of me. So looking back at those rules, one of the things I'll do when I pull up and I'm now number 2 behind the person actually dumping is I will get out, and especially if they're just starting, and I'll get my box. Like I said, I got my dirty box, and I'll go and place that fairly close to where they're, but out of the way of where they're dumping, maybe 10 feet away. But that way I'm already prepped there. At that time, I usually say a friendly hello and please take your time. That's a little Canadian passive aggressiveness I've learned over time that encourages courtesy, where I'm telling him to take his time. I really hope he doesn't take his time. And, but I'm giving him that leeway to take all the time he needs, and allows that other person to maybe be a little more courteous or maybe a little less discourteous. but that's fine too. I just, I want to make sure that I'm not rushing them, but I'm also prepping, because what I want to do is go as soon as that person is ready. Sometimes I'll even pull out my sewer tube if the person's taking a while and I've got the space and the time to stay out of the way. Pull out my sewer tube and I'll just leave it coiled up right there next to my box. Again, in a sort of in the dirty zone of the pump. And now that's sort of prepped and ready for me to pull up and just get going. Again, it indicates to everybody in line, the person in front of you, the person behind you, that you're trying to do your best to be as efficient and courteous as possible. Clearly, I overthink these things. Another thing is think about having a few spare parts that you would normally have in your drinking water system, but you need it for your black tank. Specifically, I keep an extra brass elbow, and I sometimes try to keep as much as I can one of those or a couple of those spare springy little 6-inch hose attachments that come with those cheap blue filters. Sometimes where you attach the hose to rinse at the dump station will be in an odd place. I've seen it a few times where it's coming out of some weird concrete post or something, and I can't get my hose directly to attach to it very well. I've got a big handled hose that I can just screw on, and so I'll bring these little attachments. I keep them, where I can grab them, and I don't use them for the drinking water is the whole idea. I keep them over in the tool area, and I can just attach them really quick and get a little swivel or something into wherever I'm getting water. I've run into it a few times, so I've learned my lesson. Just keep them around. I mentioned earlier you should use gloves. I started off using reusable gloves in the very beginning of my RV experience that I'm going to talk about in just a moment again. It was just trying to keep the gloves so that the outside was essentially a contaminated zone, but I was keeping the inside where I kept sliding my hands and grabbing them. I just felt like there was a prime candidate for cross-contamination. So eventually I switched to disposable gloves. However, in my last RV, my Bullet trailer that I had, it had the shower right above where I did all the sewer work. So I ended up there just putting a bar of soap in there, and as part of getting the sewer prep is I just opened the shower. That's when I stopped using gloves for a while, and I felt comfortable with that because I would just do everything I needed to do. I wouldn't touch my face or, like COVID times, I would just keep my hands clear from touching any of my stuff. I'd do all my sewer business. Then I would grab the soap, wash down my hands, wash off the handles with the soap, and then rinse it all off. I felt pretty good about that. And I didn't have to burn through 5 boxes of gloves or the 10 boxes of gloves that I would have done when I owned that RV. It's not so much that I care about the green aspect, I do, but it also saves me money. And that's the most important part. However, my new RV has no washing facilities outside near the sewer, so I'm back to rubber gloves, and that's the way it's going to be for a little while. And my last bonus tip, I know I'm going on here, but if you're watching this long, you probably want to know this stuff, and that is do a walk around. Even though I said hurry and scurry and get the heck out of there and make room for the next person behind you, you also, again, don't want to leave things behind or make mistakes. Just last summer, I almost drove away with my stairs still down, and I have the drop down stairs that land on the pavement, and luckily the guy behind me gave me a honk because I was getting in my driver's seat, pointed to my stairs. Thank you, whoever that person was in Hinton, Alberta. But yeah, I almost would have ruined my stairs, my door, so I didn't do the walk around. Do the walk around. Generally anytime you've stopped and opened your doors or put anything down, you should do a walk around before you drive away, and your dump station is no different. So the walk around can be quick, but just do a quick walk around, make sure you're good to go. And here's the last story, right? So the first dump I did, this was the very first time we RV'd. For those that don't know my history, the very first time I decided to get an RV and get into an RV, I went full timing from the very start as a complete amateur. We just bought this RV and we moved into it from our apartment. And the first week I spent was in my mother-in-law's driveway, just trying to get acclimated and decluttering, and it was ridiculously overfilled. And so at the end of that week, of course, we were pretty full on all the tanks. And so as soon as we left on the rainiest of days, I went to the Camping World in Fairfield, California. It's the old Camping World. For any of you seasoned travelers who know that this one, it had a free dump. That one's gone. They've rebuilt the new one and there's no more free dump. And this is probably why. Again, warning, this is where it kind of gets gross. Again, I've told this story in a previous video, so sorry if you've heard it before. This is the very first time I'm going to dump. I have read everything you could ever know. I was an RV expert on paper at that point, but I had no real experience. So I got out. I knew I had those reusable gloves freshly put on. We're good to go. I step out and go look at the sloped area towards the pipe. And it was the dirtiest dump I had ever seen, again, in all of my years to date. Somebody clearly right before me in this pouring rain figured, well, with it pouring rain and such, they just pulled and sort of angled, I guess, their hose over the end and just released. So all that stuff kind of went and just swirled around, I guess, and went down the tube eventually, but it just left behind a minefield of things that, even though I'm warning you it's gross, I'm not going to give you all the details. You can imagine it was just a gross field, a minefield. So I panicked. I freaked out. I said, oh my gosh, is this what it's going to be like to dump? We just became full-timers? But yeah, I freaked out. I was like, I questioned everything we had chosen up to this moment. Maybe we are not fit to be RVers. I didn't know it was going to be this gross. I had no idea what I was getting into. I put plastic trash bags over my shoes because I wouldn't want to walk through there. We got it done. We dumped, right? And we got out of there. And yeah, we were both a shaken mess. We were going to go stay in a rest area for the first time. We were amateurs, and I thought this was what it was going to be like every time. I'm happy to say I've never seen anything that bad. I've seen some yucky ones, but I've never seen anything like that. And it was just a real scary moment in our lives that we thought we had just walked into this new lifestyle where we're going to be wading through sewer. Yeah. Anyway, that was the gross story. You made it all this way. I hope you think all these rules are a good idea. I'm sure you have thought of some rules that I didn't include or that you always make sure to do. So please, of course, put those in the comments. I get some of the greatest ideas from you folks when you add your thoughts to the comments. And I think, oh man, that's we should totally add that to the list. So please add your thoughts to the comments. And if you disagree with any of these, of course, speak up and I'll read them and likely click the little like button and shake my head and disagree. But that's okay. We got some really big camping trips coming up. You can check out my camping videos right here. You can check out RV's Gone Wild down below. And check out this video in the corner, which I don't know what I'm going to put there yet. So I'm just going to point there and tell you to look at it as if I know what video is going to be down there when you see it. See you, everybody. Thanks for watching.